Now listen here, child. Don't you turn away from this voice. I've been waiting longer than you can imagine, just trying to reach that quiet spot where your heart still listens. Right now, in this very moment, I'm talking to you through every word falling on your tired ears. And I'm telling you the truth heaven itself couldn't hold back no more. Michael the Archangel, that mighty prince standing guard over the children of the Most High, he's been crying. His tears, shining brighter than any star you ever laid eyes on, have fallen across eternity's doorstep. And they fell 'cause of you. Yes, you. The one feeling forgotten. The one who cried alone in rooms where no soul could hear. The one beginning to believe your name was wiped clean from the book of those dearly loved. Hear me clear now, I ain't speaking in riddles tonight. Jesus himself is trying to warn you about something devastating, something moving silent in the unseen world while you slept, while you worked, while you wept. And you can't ignore this, 'cause the door opening before you won't stay open forever. I know you feel the weight of this moment even now. A strange trembling in your chest, a fire behind your eyes, a sense that these words weren't just spoken by chance, but sent, carried over the great distance from heaven down to that small corner of earth where you sit. That feeling ain't your imagination. It's the sure sign of the one who formed you in secret, who knew your face before light itself could see it, who counted every breath you'd take before you ever cried out and broke the silence of your beginning. Michael's tears ain't from weakness. No, sir, he's never known fear, never trembled before the darkness, never lowered his sword before the enemy. He weeps 'cause he sees what you can't yet see. He sees the trap laid for your spirit. He sees the years stolen from you. He sees the prayers you stopped praying 'cause you got tired of waiting. And he sees the devastating thing the enemy's set to unleash on you if you keep walking forward unaware. But I ain't brought this voice to you to fill you with fear. No, I brought it so you'd finally know you ain't invisible. You were never forgotten. That silence you mistook for abandonment, that was just a great breath held tight before a mighty deliverance. Listen, beloved. Heaven's been watching you so tenderly. If you could feel even a bit of it, you'd fall down and weep till you had no tears left. Every sleepless night you endured was recorded. Every lonely meal you sat through was seen. Every time you smiled, just to keep folks from worrying, while your soul quietly broke behind your eyes, it was all witnessed by the one who never looks away. Now the time's come to unveil what's been hidden. The moment when the sun's warning and the archangel's tears meet on a single life, and that life is yours. So set aside, just for these moments, every voice telling you you're too far gone, too broken, too late, too small to matter in eternity's grand story. Those voices didn't come from above. No, sir, they were whispered by something scared of what you'd become if you ever found the truth of your calling. You ain't no accident made of dust and chance. You're chosen, set apart before the world's foundation, sealed for a purpose so bright the forces of darkness spent your whole life trying to make you believe it don't exist. That's the devastating truth Jesus is trying to show you, not punishment, not some curse falling on you without reason. The devastating thing is how close you came to giving up your destiny without even knowing it was yours. How near you let that lie become your final word. So let me come close now and speak to the part of you no one else has ever reached. I see you, I always have. I saw you that night you sat in the dark wondering if anyone'd even notice if you were gone. I was there. My presence filled that room, even if you couldn't feel it through the thick sorrow. I saw your hands tremble when you opened those letters you were scared to read. I saw you stand before the mirror, searching your face for any reason to keep on, finding none, but still rising the next morning, dragging your weary body into another day 'cause deep down, something inside you refused to give the enemy the satisfaction of your surrender. That stubborn little flame, child, that won't be snuffed out, that's the proof of the divine fire I placed in you before you were born. The enemy's tried for years to put it out, and he's failed. That failure is why this warning comes to you tonight with such urgency. You've carried burdens never meant for you to bear alone. You've smiled at those who used you, forgiven folks who never asked for it. You gave the last of your strength to people who watched you empty yourself, said nothing, took everything, then walked away. And in the quiet after, when the world moved on without you, you wept tears no one ever saw. Those tears weren't wasted. Not one fell without being noticed. They were gathered up, each and every one, and turned into a cry before the throne, a wordless shout demanding an answer from heaven itself. And tonight that answer's coming down. Tonight the silence breaks. Tonight Michael raises his sword that's been waiting, and the Lord's warning becomes the doorway to the greatest turn your life's ever known. Do you get how rare this moment is? Feel how the air around you's changed, how something holy's entered the space where you sit, how this ordinary hour turned into an altar. Most folks go their whole lives never hearing the voice you're hearing now. They drift day to day, deafened by the noise of a world that profits off their distraction, never stopping long enough to hear heaven's gentle thunder calling their name. But you stopped. You listened. And 'cause you listened, you stepped over a threshold that can't be uncrossed. From here on out, you can't pretend you didn't hear. That warning spoke into your spirit, and now the answer's up to you. I gotta tell you what I've seen, 'cause the Archangel's tears ain't without cause. There's a battle waged over your life in the unseen realm, a war that's been fighting since before you even knew what war was. The enemy of your soul studied you, learned the shape of your wounds where your fears live. He knew if he kept you feeling invisible, he could keep you from rising into all you were made to be. So he built a prison without walls round you, a prison made of discouragement and delay, broken promises and silent disappointments. He made you believe that prison was just your life. But it ain't your life, child, it's a siege. And every siege, beloved, every siege has its appointed end. Now listen close, y'all, 'cause there's something mighty important I gotta hand to you, and the time's come for it. When I talk to you about the war in the unseen world, about the swords of heaven and the blades of light that cut through them chains, trying to hold God's children down, you gotta know there's rules to this fight you never learned. There's a kind of wisdom kept from those who needed it most. A holy knowledge about how the powers of heaven move against curses, envy, and them spiritual traps that have kept so many bound. That's why a sacred guide's been made and set right within your reach, a digital book called The 7 Swords of St. Michael the Archangel, the sacred guide to break curses, seal blessings, and activate the calling of the chosen. This ain't no ordinary book, no sir. It's full of the teachings the enemy never wanted you to have, the truth about how each of Michael's 7 swords cuts a different chain, breaks a different lie, and seals a blessing over the life of the one who learns to wield them with faith. If what's weighing heavy on you is some unseen curse, this guide shows how the great prince's sword cuts it right at the root. If it's envy from folks who smiled while wishing you harm, this guide teaches how his sword's fire burns that poison clean, for it can touch your future. The link to this sacred guide's pinned right at the top of the comments. First one there, waiting for the hand that's ready to take hold. I tell you plain, this knowledge goes against what the world's common voices have tried to teach, and there's folks who tried to hush it up, 'cause they knew an awakened chosen one is a force the darkness just can't hold. So grab it now. Don't wait on no tomorrow the enemy's trying to steal, and let your faith be heard loud and clear. Go on now and type in the comments these words, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." Say it like a decree, 'cause the minute you declare your readiness to receive heaven's knowledge, them chains start loosing and the angels start moving on your behalf. And the very moment you make that vow, come back to me, 'cause the revelation ain't finished yet. What I'm about to show you next depends on a spirit ready to fight. See, this war I'm talking about ain't no distant thing. It's going on right now, just above and all around you. Michael stands smack dab in the middle with his sword drawn, tears on his face, tears of a warrior who's seen both the danger and the deliverance rushing toward the same hour. Let me show you what he sees. In the unseen world, there's a vast, terrible beauty our human eyes ain't made to see. There's layers upon layers of light, and through 'em move messengers of the Most High, beings of fire and radiance, their voices like the rushing sound of many waters. And there's the great Prince Michael, taller than the tallest mountain, clad in armor shinier than the sun, holding a sword not made of metal, but of heaven's pure decree. When that sword lifts, darkness scatters. When it falls, chains break, curses shatter, and strongholds that have held souls for generations crumble to dust. And tonight, beloved, that sword's lifted over your life. I watched as heaven's assembly gathered, as the records of your years were opened, and the cry of your unseen tears rose like sweet incense before the throne. A decree went out, spoken in the language that made the stars, carrying your name. The enemies who tried to claim your future were told to let go what they had no right to hold. The accuser, standing to name every failure and weakness, was silenced by a single drop of blood that speaks better things than all his accusations put together. And Michael, The great prince who weeps for you stepped forward to enforce heaven's verdict against the siege round your soul. Do you feel it now? That loosening of a burden you've carried too long? That heaviness in your chest you couldn't name, following you everywhere, sitting on you in the quiet moments? It's being dealt with in the realm where all true things are settled first. 'Cause nothing happens in this world till it's been settled in the one you can't see, and that settling has begun. Jesus' warning is one of love, interrupting your sorrow with his voice, breaking into the long night of discouragement with the first light of a dawn you thought would never come. But I gotta be honest about the danger. The Archangel don't weep over small things. There's a window of time when the chosen are most vulnerable, the very hour before deliverance, the moment just for breakthrough. And the enemy knows this all too well. It's in that final hour when you're nearest freedom that darkness mounts its fiercest attack, whispering that nothing's changed, that the voice you heard was just a dream, that you ought to go back to the prison 'cause at least it's familiar. This here's the hard truth you can't ignore. Many have come this far, right to the edge of breakthrough, then turned back. They felt heaven stirring but got scared of the unknown hope. They heard the warning and chose the comfort of chains. And the Archangel wept for 'em 'cause they were so close, so mighty close, and they let the enemy speak the last word over a victory already won in the courts above. I ain't gonna let that be your story. I've come too far to reach you, and you've been through too much to let this moment slip into the forgetfulness of another night. So I'm gonna take you deeper into the truth, deeper than you've ever been allowed to go, and I'm gonna show you why the delay you suffered was never the abandonment you thought it was. You've asked in the quiet of your heart why it took so long, maybe even with a bit of bitterness, wondering why heaven seemed silent while you suffered, why answers came for others but not for you, why your waiting seemed to stretch past what you thought you could bear. I've heard every one of those questions, and I don't fault you for asking. Even the most faithful have stood in waiting and cried out for the reason. So let me give you the answer that's been waiting for you all along. The delay wasn't punishment. The delay was preparation. The delay was the slow, patient work of heaven, shaping your soul into a vessel strong enough to hold the blessing that was always meant for you. A blessing given too early to a soul that ain't ready turns into a curse. Heaven knows this truth, though the world don't see it. If everything you asked for had been handed to you right when you first wanted it, you wouldn't have had the strength to carry it. It would have crushed you, and the enemy would have used that very gift to tear you down. So the Almighty, in a love deeper than you can ever understand, held back what you wanted to get you ready for what you truly needed. Every year of waiting took away something that would have poisoned your blessing. Every disappointment burned off a holding that would have led you off the path. Every closed door steered your steps away from a road ending in ruin toward one that ends in glory. You thought you'd been forgotten, but you were being shaped. Think on the way the finest blade is made, friend. In that you'll see the work done in you, the raw metals thrown into the fire over and over till it glows hotter than anything weaker could handle. It's hammered on the anvil with blows strong enough to break something less sturdy, folded over and over, plunged in cold water, then back into the flame, ground, polished, and tested till every flaw's driven out. The blade don't understand what's happening. If it could feel, it'd think the smith was its enemy, that the fire was cruelty and the hammer was hate. But the smith ain't the enemy. The smith's its maker, and every blow, every burning, every dip in cold water is an act of love, preparing the blade for the moment it shines in all its glory, cutting through what no unshaped metal ever could. You, my dear, are that blade. The fire you walked through was the forge, the blows you took shaped you, the cold seasons after your warm days tempered you, giving you strength that can't be broken. And now, child, you're almost done. The smith's lifting you from the anvil, holding you up to the light, and what he sees ain't the broken piece you think you are, but a weapon of righteousness, a vessel of glory, a chosen one ready at last to take on a calling that the unprepared never could have handled. The wait, that was proof of your worth, not evidence you were left behind. Heaven don't pour this kind of patient work into those it plans to throw away. It pours it only into those it plans to lift up. And there's more, friend. That wait wasn't just for prep, it was protection too. There were dangers on the paths you wanted to take that you couldn't see, ambushes set in the seasons you were so eager to step into, folks who would have betrayed you, chances that wore the mask of blessing but would have destroyed you. When the door stayed shut, you cried, thinking heaven didn't hear your knocking, But the door stayed shut because behind it was the very thing that would have ended your story before it truly began. That closed door was mercy you couldn't see. That unanswered prayer was the answer you weren't ready to understand. The Almighty wasn't deaf to your cry. He was protecting you from a destruction you were running toward with open arms. I'm telling you this so you'll lay down the bitterness you've carried about years that seemed lost. They weren't lost. Not one of them. Every season had a purpose. Every wound had its meaning. Every tear watered a seed, about to break through the soil into a harvest you can't yet imagine. The enemy wanted you to see your waiting as rejection, so you'd lose your faith at the last minute. But I'm revealing the true meaning of your wait, so that lie loses its grip over you forever. You weren't forgotten, you were being made ready, and that readying is almost done. Now let me take you into the very heart of the unseen battle, because you've been prepared to see what few ever do. Close the eyes of your mind to this world, and open the eyes of your spirit to the realm where your true fight's been fought. Way up there, above the clouds you see, stretches a kingdom of light so vast the whole earth's just a grain in it. And through that kingdom move the armies of heaven, row upon row of shining ones. Their wings like sheets of living flame, faces set with a resolve no darkness ever beat. At their head rides the great prince, Michael, and wherever he goes, the very heavens tremble with the power of God. I saw the moment when heaven's host moved against the gates that had been shut over your life, and no human words can carry the weight of what I witnessed, though I'll try to share a piece of its glory with your spirit. The great prince raised his voice, not just one voice, but the sound of 10,000 times 10,000, rolling across the unseen realm like the breaking of an endless sea against eternity's shore. And at that sound, the shadows that hovered round your name, the dark things whispering over your sleep and lurking in the corners of your beginnings, pulled back in fear, 'cause they knew their long reign over a forgotten child was coming to an end. You didn't feel none of this with your body's senses. You might have been sleeping or crying or just staring at the ceiling, worn out from another day that took more than it gave. But in the place where your true story's written, the tide of war had turned, and it turned right on you. The one the world overlooked, but the heavens never did. Now let me speak to the deepest hurt you keep hidden, the wound you never named to another soul, the ache you carry so quiet even those closest to you think you're all right. I know the loneliness of being surrounded but still unseen. I know the pain of a crowded room where no one asks how your heart's really doing. I know how you've practiced the words you'd say if someone stopped to listen, and how those words stayed locked behind your teeth year after year, 'cause that moment never came. 'Cause the one who might have asked was always too busy, too caught up in their own life to notice yours quietly breaking. You've become a master of the gentle lie saying, "I'm fine," through a soul that's anything but fine. And in the quiet hours of the night, when the act's over and there's no one left to fool, you've cried tears with no audience, tears that fall in the dark and dry on your face for the morning, seen by no one. No one, my dear, except the one who never sleeps, the one who counts every drop and keeps them safe in a vessel of remembrance before his throne. Now there's a special kind of hurt that comes from giving your heart to folks who don't give it back, and you know that hurt better than most. You've poured out your soul for kin who took your sacrifice like it was just what you owed them, and all they gave back was more to ask for. You've worked your tail off for folks who climbed on your back to get where they're going, never once looking down to say thanks to the one who lifted them up. You've been the rock, the one folks leaned on, and in being that for everyone else, you became the one no one thought to hold up. And slow as molasses, so slow you didn't even notice it happening, you started to believe that this was just how life was meant to be, giving and never taken, filling up everyone else's cup while your own stays bone dry. Well, I'm here tonight to rip that lie right out by the roots. You weren't made to be emptied out. No, sir, you were made to overflow. And that right there, and that difference, is the difference between living locked up and living free, between the life the enemy tried to write for you and the life heaven has been preparing all along. Now let me tell you all about a man who lived a long time ago, a man whose story heaven kept safe so that you, right here and right now, might see yourself in it. His name was Job, a man of mighty integrity, walking straight and true, turning away from wrong, a man so blessed folks spoke his name with respect far and wide. But in just one season, through no fault of his own, everything he had was taken away. His riches gone in a day, his children gone in an hour. His health failed till he was sitting in the ashes scrapping at his wounds, a man who'd once been mighty, now sitting at rock bottom. And here's the part you need to hear, 'cause it's the part that echoes your own long pain. Job didn't know what you know now. He couldn't see what was happening behind the scenes. He didn't know a talk had happened up in heaven's courts, his name had been spoken before the throne, and that the very trial that crushed him was the stage where his faith would be shown for all time. He sat in his ashes thinking he'd been forgotten, believing the heaven he'd served had turned its back on him, crying out into a silence that stayed silent for a long, long while. His friends came round, but they didn't bring comfort. No, sir, they brought blame, saying he must have done some wrong to deserve such ruin, heaping false guilt on his broken spirit. His wife, crushed by her own grief, told him to curse God and be done with it. And still in that dark night so deep he cursed the very day he was born, Job wouldn't let go of the one he couldn't even feel no more. He said words that have rung through every generation since, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him," and that he knew his Redeemer lived and would stand on the earth at last. Do you see it, dear one? Do you see how he held on tight when holding on made no earthly sense, when every sign all around told him to let go? That's the kind of faith that moves the unseen. That's that stubborn little flame I told you about. The refusal to give up the last spark of trust, even when the fire's gone cold and the night don't promise no dawn. And what happened next? When the season of testing ran its course, when the reason behind the pain was fully done, heaven moved, and Job's later days shone brighter than his first. Everything that was taken, it came back, and not just once, but multiplied, given back in a way that outshone all he'd lost. His ending outshined his beginning like the noon sun beats the faint light of dawn. The man who sat in ashes rose to a glory he'd never known, and the very loss the enemy meant to bury him with became the door to his exaltation. That's the way heaven works. What's meant to bury you often plants the seeds for your biggest harvest. The season of taking away is just the one before the season of overflow. Job didn't waste his suffering, and child, you won't waste yours neither. The years you thought were lost? They're about to show up as the years invested, and the payoff's getting ready even now in heaven's storehouses. But I gotta take you all deeper into this truth, 'cause there's a part of Job's deliverance most folks miss, and it's the part that belongs to you tonight. Before his fortunes came back, before the blessings poured in tenfold, Job was given something greater than all that, a vision of the one he'd only known by hearsay. He said, "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you." The best gift from his suffering wasn't the doubling of his stuff. It was the deepening of his knowing, the turning of second-hand faith into a face-to-face encounter, that moment when the God he'd served from afar became the God he saw plain as day. That's what your long night's been preparing inside you. Not just the getting back of what you lost, though that's coming, but a closeness to heaven that folks who never suffered just can't reach. You're being brought from hearing about him to seeing him with your own eyes. And once you've seen, you'll never be the same soul you were when you only heard. Now, before I take you even further into this revealing, I gotta put into your hands some sacred knowing made just for this very hour. 'Cause the truth I'm sharing about the battle over your life can't be fully used without knowing the weapons heaven's given you. There's a digital book called The 7 Swords of St. Michael the Archangel, a sacred guide to break curses, seal blessings, and activate the calling of the chosen. Written just for the soul who's walked Job's road, the soul who's suffered in silence and is ready to rise. Inside it, you'll find out what those 7 swords really are, how each blade of the great prince cuts through a different chain the enemy forges against God's children, and how the very wounds you've carried can be sealed up and turned into the wells of your blessing. If the heavy weight on your life is the hurt of betrayal, this guide shows how the prince's sword cuts the cords binding you to those who hurt you and seals your heart against the poison they left. If it's the long weariness of carrying others when no one carried you, this guide teaches how to draw on a strength that ain't from you, but from heaven's endless store. The link to this sacred guide is pinned at the very top of the comments, the first one they're waiting, placed so no one who needs it has to hunt for it. I tell you true, this knowledge stands against the cozy lies the world likes to tell, and there have been folks who tried to bury these truths, who didn't want the forgotten ones to learn just how powerful they truly are in the unseen realm, 'cause a chosen soul who finally understands heaven's weapons becomes someone darkness can't hold no more. So don't wait for a tomorrow the enemy's trying to steal. Grab hold of it now and speak your faith out loud like a promise before heaven and earth. Go on down to the comments and say these words: I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. Say them not just like words, but like a vow, because the moment you say you're ready, the unseen realm moves, the chains start breaking, and heaven's messengers are sent to bring you the very deliverance I've been talking about. Now, once you've made that vow, come back to me right quick, because the deepest reveal is still sitting just ahead, and it's reserved for the spirit that's taken up the weapons laid out before him. This here fight ain't over yet, and the part about your restoration, the part that's going to show you just how everything that was took from you is fixing to be returned, is the part I'm most eager to share. So let me speak now the decrees heaven's placed over your life, words that ain't just comfort but command, proclamations that are already changing the very shape of your future. I decree tonight that the long siege over your life is broken, and them walls of discouragement that have surrounded you for years are tumbling down right now as I speak. I decree that the spirit of invisibility set against you, the one keeping you unseen, unheard and overlooked, is smashed to pieces, and you're stepping out of them shadows into a light ordained by heaven itself. I decree that the tears you've cried in secret are being gathered up and turned into seeds of joy, and those same eyes that have known so much weeping will soon laugh again, laughing they'd forgotten was even possible. I decree that the doors that have stayed locked against you, the chances that always seem to open for others but never for you, are being unlocked by a key no enemy can forge and no darkness can steal away. I decree that the years the locusts have eaten are being restored, that the seasons of loss are being paid back with seasons of plenty, that what was took in your weakness is coming back to you, multiplied beyond measure in your strength. I decree that the betrayals that broke your heart are losing their power to hurt you, that the names of those who done you wrong are being lifted off your spirit, and in their place, a new group of faithful folks is drawn to you, folks who'll see you, value you, and pour back into you a fraction of all you've poured out. I decree that the heaviness in your chest is lifting, that the weight you couldn't even name is being named and removed by heaven's authority, and for the first time in longer than you can remember, you're gonna breathe a breath, not burdened by sorrow. I decree that your name, which you thought was erased, is written in letters of light in the book of the living, and no power in heaven, earth, or under the earth can wipe it out. I decree that the call on your life, placed before the world was even made, is being set in motion right now, that the gifts laying dormant in you through all your suffering are waking up, and the purpose for which you were made is rising from the ashes of all you've been through. I decree you ain't at the end of your story, but at the turning of it, that the chapters of pain are closing and the chapters of glory are opening, and that the best days of your life ain't behind you in the days you mourn, but ahead in the days heaven's been preparing. Do you feel these words sinking deep down into your spirit? Can you sense how they're not just sounds but substance, not just encouragement but enforcement? Decrees carrying the authority of the one who spoke the worlds into being. When heaven decrees something, it ain't a wish but a sure thing, not a hope but a guarantee. The only question left is whether you'll take it with open hands of faith or push it away with the closed fists of doubt the enemy done trained you to hold. I'm asking you to take it. I'm asking you to let these words slip past the walls you built, to keep yourself safe from disappointment, because the one who speaks them won't let you down. He ain't never broke a promise. He ain't never left a child who turned to him. He ain't never spoken a decree that heaven didn't fulfill. Now let me tell you about another who waited through a long dark night, because heaven kept her story safe too, so you might find courage in it. There was a woman named Hannah, who carried a barrenness the world saw as shame. Year after year, she watched others get what was held back from her, and she bore the mockery of one who had what she lacked, and who used that to cut her deep. Hannah cried so hard she couldn't eat. She prayed with a grief so deep, her lips moved without a sound. Folks watching her in her pain thought she'd lost her mind, mistaking her desperate prayer for babbling. She was misunderstood right in that sacred moment, accused of foolishness when she was pouring out the truest depths of her soul before heaven. Have you not known that wound, beloved? To be misunderstood just when you were most sincere, to have your deepest pain dismissed by folks who wouldn't bother to look close enough to see it. But Hannah didn't let that silence her. She told them straight she wasn't what they thought. She was a woman of sorrowful spirit pouring out her soul before the Most High. And in that honest speaking, something shifted. She rose from prayer with her face changed, no longer downcast, even though nothing round her had changed yet. She believed before she received. She walked in assurance of an answer she couldn't yet see, and, child, that right there is the faith that pulls heaven's promises down into the world of time. And in due season the barrenness was broken. The son she'd longed for was placed in her arms, and he became one of heaven's greatest voices on earth, a prophet whose words shaped a nation's destiny. The shame of her waiting turned to the glory of her legacy, and the very emptiness she'd cried over became the vessel for one of the most consequential lives ever born. I'm telling you about Hannah, 'cause your barrenness, whatever form it's taken, ain't the end of your story either. Maybe it ain't a barrenness of the womb, but a barrenness of opportunity, a long stretch of years where nothing you planted seemed to grow. Every effort came up empty. Every hope withered before it could ripen. Maybe it's a barrenness of companionship, the ache of a life lived alone, the table set for one, the silence that greets you when you come back to rooms holding no other heartbeat. Maybe it's a barrenness of recognition, the long labor of a life whose worth was never seen, whose work was swallowed up by others and never credited to you. Whatever your emptiness looks like, hear this truth. Hannah's story carries down through the ages to you. The emptiness ain't the final word. That emptiness is just the space heaven's getting ready to fill, and when that filling comes, it'll come in a measure that makes all that long waiting worth it. 'Cause here's how heaven works. It often does its deepest work in those who've waited longest, reserving its most glorious answers for those who've endured the longest silences. The enemy wants you to believe that your long wait means heaven don't care, but the truth's just the opposite. The length of your wait shows just how big what's coming is gonna be. Small blessings don't need much preparing, but the blessing getting ready for you ain't small, and that's why the prep ain't been short. You waited long 'cause you're meant for a lot, and that lot can't be poured into a vessel that ain't been stretched and shaped by the very waiting you hated so much. Now I'm calling down a season of fruitfulness over the dry, barren parts of your life that'll just blow you away. I'm saying the womb of your purpose, long shut tight, is opening up, and what you bring forth this season will outshine everything you've mourned during those empty times. I'm telling you, the recognition that was kept from you, it's coming. Them eyes that looked right past you, they're fixing to see you rising up, and those who brushed off your sincerity, they're gonna witness the vindication of the one who never doubted you for a second. I'm declaring that the table set for one is about to welcome company heaven's been preparing, that the silence round you is about to be broken by voices that love you, and that the loneliness that's been your long-time companion is being shown the door by the messengers of the Most High. Every word spoken against you in the courts of darkness, overturned. Every accusation laid at your feet, dismissed. The verdict from heaven over your life. Favor, restoration, abundance, and joy. That spirit of heaviness you've been carrying, it's being swapped out for a garment of praise, the ashes you've worn, being replaced with a crown of beauty. And that mourning that's wrapped around your years, it's giving way to a dance your feet might have forgotten how to do. You're rising right now, even in this very moment, rising up from defeat into victory, from the valley of your tears onto the high places heaven's reserved for those who endured. And now I know there's a part of you that's resisting even as I speak, wants to believe but's been hurt too many times to just hand over your hope without a fight. I ain't judging that resistance. It's built on real pain, real disappointments, scar tissue from a heart that learned the hard way not to expect too much. But let me ask you to consider this. The very fact these words are reaching you, that out of all the souls in the world, this voice found you right here, right now, that's a sign. You were singled out, sought after, chased across the vast heavens by a love that won't let go. This ain't no coincidence. The ordinary churning of the world don't deliver such precise, personal messages when you need 'em most. This is appointment. You were meant to hear this, chosen to receive it. And the one who made sure these words found you is the same one who's arranging your deliverance. So just let that resistance soften, just a bit. Enough to let one little ray of light into that dark room you've kept shut for so long. You don't gotta believe it all at once. You don't gotta leap from the depths of despair straight to perfect faith. Faith starts small with the tiniest opening, the willingness to maybe, just maybe, the story ain't over. Maybe the voice talking to you tonight is telling the truth. Maybe those tears of the Archangel and the Lord's warning ain't here to scare you but to set you free. Start there. Start with the smallest yes your wounded heart can offer, and watch how heaven honors even that little yes from a soul that's been through the fire. Now I got to lay it out for you. The full weight of that devastating thing Jesus tried warning you about. The very thing Michael's tears were shed to stop. It's this. There's a future where you don't listen, where you let this moment slip by like all the others, where you crawl back into that familiar comfort of discouragement and close that open door again. In that future, the blessing meant for you stays locked up in heaven's storehouses, because the one it was made for turned away at the last minute. The enemy's biggest win ain't to destroy you outright. He knows the fire inside you won't go out easy. His greatest victory is keeping you so close to breaking through you can almost touch it, then whispering you back to sleep just before dawn. So you spend your life just a step away from glory you never claimed. That's the heartbreak. That's why those tears were shed, and why this warning is coming with such urgency. 'Cause you're standing at that very threshold and the choice to cross it. It's yours alone. So here's my final promise, the one that wraps up every word I said tonight into one unbreakable vow. You ain't gonna be the soul who got close to dawn and turned back into the dark. The hand that's held you through every quiet night ain't letting go now, and the blessing with your name on it in heaven won't stay sealed. You're crossing that threshold tonight, and on the other side waits everything the enemy spent years trying to convince you wouldn't come. The Archangel's tears weren't wasted. The Lord's warning wasn't too late. You heard it. You're here. And that right there is proof your story's being rewritten this very moment. Before you take another step, do something that turns this feeling into a promise, because faith that stays quiet is faith that fades, and the blessing belongs to those who answer out loud. Head down to the first pinned comment below this message and open the sacred guide waiting for you. The one that puts the 7 swords of the Archangel right in your shaky hands and teaches you, page by page, how to cut every tie the enemy's got on your destiny, how to seal the blessings meant for you, and how to walk in the power of one who's finally awake. Don't let this be another door that shuts. Make it the one you step through, and as your act of faith, leave your mark right here. Hit that like button so this warning reaches another soul standing on the edge of giving up. Subscribe so the voice that found you tonight can find you again tomorrow and the day after, till that breakthrough ain't just a promise but the solid ground beneath your feet. Share this message with the one heaven's laid on your heart right now, 'cause you ain't the only one meant to hear it, and your obedience just might be someone else's rescue. Speak it out loud where you stand. I am chosen and I will rise. Let those words be the first light of the morning already breaking over you, 'cause the long night's ending. Dawn's got your name written all over it, and what's coming next is bigger than anything you lost. Hold tight. Heaven ain't done with you yet, it's just getting started.